you from the historic fucking
OB atmosphere.
Yeah. The one and only standalone. Oh man, the camera's not even on. Not that we need that. People, nobody's watching. No. But anybody who would like to in the future, I suppose we should do that. No. I'll get this shit right. Someday. I need the screens closer together. Webcam group. Starting soon. Turn that off. Okay. Boom. Here we go. Okay. Visible. Getting the desktop set up. Display capture. Black screen. Turn black screen off. Boom. None of that black screen. That's racist. We can't have that around here.
Or inclusionist, depending on who you ask.
You know. It's up to no good. To have black screens. You get in some serious trouble.
I don't know, they make my eyes feel better than white screens. I have sensitive eyes.
This is going nowhere fast.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared. I'm just doing this so that I am in the habit of doing them more than anything.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get this out here. I appreciate you here, that you're here and are supportive of my whimsy.
Of course. It's pretty great. I'm glad that you let me be a part of it.
I'm just trying to solve the world one night at a time, you know.
Yeah.
Starting out with the small time, you know, it's weird because at one point in time people were doing this with like ham radios in their like small towns and shit. Now people are doing this with podcasts.
Yeah.
It's so easy. You can do it anywhere with your phone. Sounds like Dick Tracy shit.
That's true.
It's pretty great. Yeah, I have a bunch of things that I wanted to talk about, but I've waited so long to actually get them out that every time I come and like force myself to do a podcast, all of those ideas are just like an amorphous blob. None of them are really like individually distinct anymore.
I think so yesterday we watched the Don Lemon interview with Elon Musk.
Perfect. That's a great idea.
And that was something, because I really only knew him. I heard of Don Lemon like being on like CNN or whatever, but like I don't really watch news people, so I've been pretty indifferent to him. But Elon Musk, I feel, is like an okay guy who gets painted as a bad guy a lot because he has a lot of money, and I don't really think that's fair to judge him on.
As a soul.
Yeah, like he's a person.
Yeah.
Like he's a dad, he has kids, like he's a person, and like listening to him talk, I really do feel like he genuinely just wants to make the world a better place and make sure that humanity continues on. But the way that Don Lemon asked him, like, you take ketamine, like...
He was a straight up fucking asshole.
What's your dose, like...
You would never go up to someone and, like, start asking them, oh, so you take insulin, what do you take that for?
Yeah, so
do you take that illegally? Do you have a prescription for that?
Are you worried about losing your job for that?
Yeah,
like...
and, like, granted, like, insulin is, you know, pretty specific, like, nuanced kind of treatment. But, like, let's say he was...
It doesn't matter. That's HIPAA. That's HIPAA stuff. You don't ask people about their medical stuff unless you're an employer, and you have to know.
And the only reason why I think you would ask someone something like that is if you're trying to imply something with the answer provided.
Yeah.
Like, if the answer is no, okay. As far as, like, using it recreationally or abusing it,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. But, like, if the answer is yes, you know the first thing he's going to say is, oh, so you're, like, compromised because you're recreationally abusing these drugs that you either got illegally or were prescribed regardless. But, yeah, like, the whole interview is nothing but him trying to...
He was like trying to pin him, like
Yeah,
stick
he's
him with
trying to
something, like
convey
make
him.
him the antagonist of the
Convey him.
story.
Yeah.
Whatever he was literally trying to hit him with like racism, sexism, classism,
Misogyny.
like everything.
Yeah.
And it was just like relentless. There was no anytime he gave an answer that was not playing into or directly refuted the whole narrative of he's racist and doesn't like Jewish people, he totally ignored that answer and then just dove right into a different question.
Yeah, so there's all of these, like, student organizations on these liberal campuses that are, like, distinctly anti-Semitic, distinctly racist. They get support from people who are wealthy who happen to be Jewish, and Elon was speaking out saying people should probably investigate this more, not saying like these people absolutely are, like this warrants investigation, especially when you see so many students lining the streets and protesting and like completely shutting down colleges in order to protest in support of Hamas, not just in support of Palestinians' right to sovereignty and like freedom in choice of their government, but specifically in support of Hamas, in the support of a third intifada, like fucking from the river to the sea. Like most of them, like if there's endless footage of these people being asked, do you know what that even means? Like, do you know anything about the history of Gaza or the West Bank or anything? And they're completely, like, blank-faced whenever you ask these questions.
Because these are kids in, like, their, like, political science 100 class.
Yeah, I mean,
their
granted,
is like,
I don't know that much about it. Like, it's a very nuanced thing.
And their teacher is, like, making them talk about, like, current events, and they're like, oh, we should, like, march and protest against this. And then everybody is, like, circle jerking each other. I mean, like, I experienced that in my social work classes. Like, I myself organized a walk against gun violence. But that was because kids are getting shot up in schools. Like, I think...
It's weird how, like, all of these things get conflated. Because people will see that, like, gun regulation is something that's, like, associated, like, way more with the left. And then all these other ideas that are associated with the left get associated with that idea. And not even necessarily ideas that have anything to do with it. Like fucking abortion and transgender rights and things like that. Like, oh, you think that gay people should get married. I bet you think no one should be allowed to own a gun too. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what?
And it goes really far when, like... people start conflating, like, ridiculous fringe ideas that, like, these politicians will try and get these ridiculous fringe ideas support for their votes, and then those ideas start getting equated with the rest of their constituents as well, like,
like the right thinks that the left wants to make everybody gay and take all the guns away.
Right, and those people do exist.
And yes, and they do. And the left thinks that the right wants to turn women into slaves and, like, have men become, I don't know, super...
And anybody with, like, a potential birth complication that would have to die through abortion should die because abortion is bad.
Yeah, and
like,
all those doctors should go to jail.
Yeah. Like,
and those people exist too, which
Yeah.
is fucked up.
yeah.
Because that shouldn't be.
So I've always said this, and I only believe it more as I get older. The only kind of radical anyone should be allowed to be, and like, I don't know, the only kind of radical that seems rational to me, I guess everyone's allowed to be whatever they fucking want to be, is a moderate one. Like, you should, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's ridiculous the extent these people go to and the hills that they choose to die on, without even trying to steal man or like. What if anything would convince these people that the vaccines are bad? Or what if anything would convince these people that the vaccines would inevitably be good and save society in the long run? Like, the only kind of thing that would prove it to people is the outcome in the long run.
Yeah.
And they're constantly fighting each other to impede that progress.
Right. And because this is based on their beliefs. Like, they believe in vaccines. They believe in the laws that they pass. They believe in their religions and whatever, all the things.
Right. Yeah, it's...
Which
yeah.
makes it hard to question people because people get super defensive and, like...
Yeah, they're trying to convince other people rather than trying to convince themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the problem comes from, because people are always trying to convince you of things with, like... Yeah, you might have a lot of the picture put together and you might be really smart, but I see people who... like... climate change, for instance, not to say that I don't believe in climate change or global warming or global cooling or whatever, what have you, but there are totally credible scientists arguing the points of both sides of that all the time.
Well, yeah, because it's a mixture of... both things are true. The Earth is warming naturally as well as we are accelerating its warming.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
I think the picture of that's definitely changing. But, like, people are trying to conclusively argue things. My point is that people are trying to conclusively argue things as though they know.
Yeah.
When they take no... it's like they're afraid to lose credibility. For me, if anything, you gain credibility by having the humility to be like, look, I don't have the whole fact or all of the facts, but here's what I do have. Whereas most people are like, they're fucking intellectual bigots. They're fucking elitists.
Well, it's like honesty is the best policy. If you don't know something, be like, I don't know that. This is what I know, but I can try to find out more about that, and then when I do more research, we can come back to this conversation. Like,
yeah, right.
Whatever it is.
And it's really funny because I think a lot of what was going on in that interview with Don Lemon and Elon Musk was shit that it was perfectly... it, like, demonstrated exactly why things like CNN and Fox and all those are dying. Okay. Everyone's going to places like Joe Rogan for interviews. And, yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson makes a great point that the places for scientific debate and peer reviews and things like that are not on Joe Rogan.
Correct.
But Joe Rogan gives social awareness to things for people to not necessarily... like, yeah, there's a bunch of fucking lazy headline reading weirdos who are just going to hear the bits and pieces of what Terrence said and not do any actual research or try and do any kind of peer reviewing themselves. Yeah. They're going to be like, oh yeah, no, this is a crazy idea and I've been looking for something to disprove everything that society believed forever, so I believe in this now.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be a lot more people out there shooting that shit down, and I think it's a good thing. It gives people the chance to step forward, because otherwise it's just like an elephant in the room kind of sitting in the corner, because it's not like people don't talk about that, but now people are actually addressing it.
And it's not like you can just, like, call in and respond to live television. Like, on podcasts and stuff, you can type and respond.
Exactly.
And have a conversation. Like in Don Lemon's video, he said, the conversation doesn't end here.
Yeah, and he was trying to attack Elon for X and stuff like that. He was like, you think I'm left-leaning? Really? And, like... Elon's like, I don't know, you tell me. You were a show host for CNN. Like, it doesn't really get much more left than that. But that aside, on X, Don was like, oh, you can't really use the interview or the internet for, like, review and stuff like that. And Elon's like, well, it's not just random people. They're citing evidence. And that's, like... Right. The good thing about Community Notes. And on CNN, that doesn't exist.
Right.
Like, go on CNN and see how many news stories there have a comment section. Because there's not a lot of them. Because people tear the shit up and make fun of it. They think it's a fucking joke.
Yeah, I haven't honestly looked at
like
CNN or whatever in a long time.
Like a lot of those things turn on, or like ABC, a lot of Good Morning America and shit like that. They'll turn off their YouTube comment section.
Like they're live streaming on Facebook and
Yep, because people tear them apart. It's hilarious.
Interesting.
So
well, that's like when I was
Don Lemon left his comment section open for that interview on YouTube, but he had a message pinned from him saying, like, go here and you can also check out other messages or other videos and interviews from me. And people just started tearing them apart, so he turned the comments off on it. It was fucking great. We're like...
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. It was very funny. But point being, I think that it really did a great job demonstrating why CNN and things like that are dying, because, like... There is an open dialogue on things like X. I mean, like it is a screaming horde, and not all of it is real. There's tons of bots, and AI is gonna be crazy. I don't go on Twitter because of the amount of bots that are on Twitter.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still kind of easy to figure it out. Like, you just look at the picture. It's like, is the background blurred in a weird way? Yeah, it's probably an AI picture. It's kind of funky. It makes my eyeball twitch. But,
as far as the active users are actual users. But, like, the people who are just endlessly sending friends requests and things like that.
Oh, yeah, those people
or whatever.
Are dumb and
like, I can't...
sending messages.
I'm not going to chase them all down. I can't remove them all.
Yeah.
There's too many of them. Yeah, so, another thing I thought was great. I had this, I don't know. I've spoken about this on prior podcasts. I kind of took a step back in my youth, or years prior to, like, now.
Your mid-youth?
Yeah, mid-youth, I guess.
Elder youth?
Yeah, 20s or whatever. I kind of took a step back from, like, friends and everything, because everyone just spontaneously became super politically motivated. It was, like, something everyone was talking about. I was scared to have my opinions because, like, a lot of my friends, like, basically told me I was stupid. They told me I was racist. Like, all sorts of shit. And now, like, it's... total common, or all of this shit's like totally fucking commonplace conversation, and like, I don't know, everything in that interview with Don Lemon and Elon Musk characterized almost all of the fucking, like, virtue signaling, race, like, diversity promoting, but like ironically racist bullshit that I've seen from the left for years and years and years. And they're all, like, everything he said... Sorry, one second. was like, don't you think, or can't you see how, like, some people would interpret what you said as, like, racist against black people, or this or that, or misogynist? Like, you could totally characterize it that way. Like, fuck those people. That's not what I meant.
Yeah.
Like, I could twist and distort everything Don Lemon says, but nobody does that because they want to give him the benefit of the doubt and try and have a rational conversation with him. Those people like Don Lemon do not deserve a platform. And I'm sitting here talking about him, but you know, how many people really listen to me?
But I mean, like, I was really shocked that he, like, talked to him like that. Like, he was so,
and he cut the interview short. Like,
yeah, like, Elon was like,
choose your
we're
questions
running out
carefully.
of time.
And Don tries to characterize him as, like, an asshole.
Yeah.
Saying, like, oh, we had all sorts more time scheduled and stuff, but he just cut out. I don't know what happened. You be the judge.
Dude,
you were a fucking racist, antagonizing asshole.
Judgmental, like, belittling, just gross. Like,
disrespectful.
So disrespectful. Like, kudos to Elon for how he handled that. Like, you could see that he was like, oh my god, I can tell where this is going. Are we really going here, buddy? Okay, I guess we're going here. And
that's just like, I want to say that's just like typical antagonistic journalist, but I really feel like that's just like the kind of shit, I don't know.
But it's really bad. Like, I don't know, even when my dad was like, oh, you have Tesla stock, and it's like, I had Tesla stock at that time too.
Just, yeah, really,
like,
stigmatized. Everyone just has all of these weird preconceptions, and they think that they have things figured out.
Yeah.
They have no intellectual humility. They're not like, oh, maybe this guy knows something I don't. And regardless of whether or not you like Elon Musk, Tesla has been remarkably profitable. So,
yeah.
like...
And Starlink has connected a lot of people to a lot of resources that otherwise they would not have.
Yeah, third world countries. I don't... Yes. Okay, so I don't want to sound like... We sound like we're fucking riding Elon's dick here.
Well, I'm just saying.
But on that... No, it's a good topic, because, like, honestly, I've met a lot of people who are just irrationally spiteful towards the guy about all sorts of weird shit.
I'm not sucking his dick. I would probably never buy a Tesla because I just don't have the money to install one of the things, and I don't know.
I don't give... You wouldn't have to buy a supercharger at your place. You just fucking... it's like a little fucking outlet. You hook up on a 220 amp circuit or something. It's not hard. But anyways, that aside... I would totally get one, but I don't really give a shit if it's a Tesla or not. I'd totally get an electric vehicle or whatever, because the fucking instant torque application. They fucking cruise. Zero, like, the new Roadster is supposed to go 0 to 60 in under 1 second?
Yeah.
What the fuck? We're going to Plaid, bitches. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
All sorts of combustion engine vehicles, like, they'll be cool to have simply because of, like, the feel.
Yeah, like my stick shift, like, I don't want to get rid of that.
Yeah, but you're gonna be a horse and buggy by comparison.
Yeah, it's gonna be obsolete eventually, but whatever.
I wonder how fast Teslas will rust out.
I don't know.
Because I haven't seen many, but I'm starting to see a couple, like, early 2000 Priuses or whatever starting to turn out rusty on the side of the road and shit.
Well, yeah, I mean, because they're 24 years old.
Yeah, no, I'm not speaking disparagingly of them. I'm just saying, like, I like, that's a pretty long time for a vehicle to hold up.
Yeah, that's true.
And usually, like, I see them die for some weird reason, like their structure. I've never seen one with, like, a rotted out structure before, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Usually Toyotas go until the engine dies, and the engines are like...
It's an Well, oh yeah, no, Toyotas are... The early Toyotas were hybrids.
Yeah. The Prius was like the first hybrid, I think.
Yeah. The early Toyotas. The early Priuses. Fuck. Words. It's getting late. So yeah, what else was there to talk about?
Ooh, you got a sticky note.
Oh yeah, no, I got some kind of shit around here somewhere. We'll see. Yeah, don't rely on me for topics. Go on.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, you think of something.
I already thought of something.
No, you got. Didn't you have something about Duke University lowering standards or whatever? Did they actually lower their standards? Did you find out anything about that?
They stopped taking into consideration essay scores, and they're looking more at people as an individual. That was pretty much it. They're still taking into consideration
So just like random general
they're still taking
assessments
into
of
consideration SAT and ACT scores. So.
Yeah, you absolutely should take it into consideration. A standardized assessment test.
Yeah,
yes,
so it's not like
totally
they're really dropping
sense.
their standards.
So here's one thing that we've had differing opinions on lately, folks. And that is a contentious topic, which is people dropping standards for education scores. What the fuck, fucking assholes. Anyways,
it might be thunder.
No, that's not thunder. That's somebody outside fucking bumping.
Wow.
They got their fucking shit banging. Anyways, yeah, so I've heard about this pretty much since like 2008 that people were like claiming standardized assessment tests and grading systems and on essence math, science, English, history, racist. Should like math, racist. And the expectations that people were held to in particular especially were racist. I hear a lot that people say it's not true, but I have looked up data saying that it is true, and upon going back to look it up, we were not able to find it. So we're gonna try and hunt it down a little bit here. Are any schools lower or we'll Google this. Claims that education or math or science are racist. Okay, well, that's not really gonna find anything. What would we Google? Well, lowering, here, we'll do this. Are schools lowering standardized testing scores for racial
inequities?
Or equality or inequities, whatever.
Yeah.
Inequities. Boom. So, according to the National Education Association, this headline says the racist beginnings of standardized testing. So this is just the headline, but I encourage people to look this kind of shit up because it's pretty fucking stupid. Educators across the country criticized the decision. Okay, in April 2020, as the pandemic engulfed the nation and forced schools to close, the department granted a blanket waiver to every state to skip mandated statewide testing for 2019 to 2020. Last month, however, this article was written March 20, 2021. Last month, however, Education Department officials announced it was mandating schools to administer some form of statewide assessment for 2020 to 2021. Educators across the country criticized the decision, saying the idea that students should be forced to take any sort of standardized test this year is incomprehensible. Arguably true. Makes sense. A lot of people didn't even have... Yeah, a lot of kids didn't even fucking go to school.
Yeah, they
and
didn't
long
have
after
food.
the pandemic. Yeah, it was like kind of locally... or under local discretion as to when the kids actually like went back to school. But anyways...
Yeah.
The priority right now should be on strengthening instruction and support for students and families and communities most traumatized by the impact of the coronavirus. Many of these same communities have suffered the most from high-stakes testing. Since their inception almost a century ago, the tests have been instruments of racism and a biased system. Decades of research demonstrate that Black, Latino, and Native students, as well as students from some Asian groups, experience bias from standardized tests administered from early childhood through college. We think there's still something wrong with the kids, rather than recognizing something wrong with the tests. The tests don't, like, change for individuals.
That's
like,
why they're standard.
Yeah, like, they're standard. They're the same for everyone.
Society.
What's wrong is the communities, but you can't say that shit because then you're called racist. Like, it's not that there's something wrong with them as individuals. It's that they don't know this shit. They don't know math, science, technology, shit like that. Yeah, you could argue that some of the perceptions of history are definitely racist or totally biased. You could totally argue that case. But math and science and shit, they don't give a fuck what race you are. Like, 2 + 2 will always equal 2. But whatever. I'm sure someone will probably argue that's racist. But, so, like, and this is something that was brought up in that interview as well between Elon and Don Lemon, where it was saying that there's something wrong with those communities. Like, they need to be uplifted, they need to be given education sources, but like, it's weird because on one side of Don Lemon's mouth, he's complaining because these people are discriminated against and not given education. But at the same time, on the other side, he complains as soon as people want to give that education. They're like, oh, so you're calling us uneducated?
Yeah.
And he literally says that in the interview. He's like, oh, so are you saying that, like, black people or women are less educated than white people and stuff? And he's like, no, I never fucking said that. And, like, that is exactly the fucking shit I fucking, like, I'm probably going to make a lot of enemies making this podcast. Probably going to lose a couple friends. Maybe I'll get some support. I encourage everyone who wants to contradict everything I'm saying to try and do so and speak out against me. Like, wholeheartedly. Like, I'm all about having conversations about this stuff because I've avoided doing so for so long. It's like when 2008 rolled around and everything started becoming contentious about Obama, you started hearing about people like having like way more stressful like family dinners at Thanksgiving, and people stopped having Thanksgiving. There was like tons of news stories about it at the time.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah.
But like, Here I am, your crazy uncle. Having the crazy conversation. We can't avoid this shit.
So I will say, like, SATs and ACTs themselves are not racist. They are not racist. However, they do provide some insight on, like, the lack of resources
in the communities.
In those communities. So, like, people...
And it's more of like a geographic thing than having anything to do with the race, because everyone in those communities, regardless of what race they are dealing with the social plights of that,
right,
like, geographic area.
Like in, like, the poorest zip code in our area, the majority of them are black, but there are white and Hispanic, Latino people. There's everybody in that zip code, but it just so happens that the majority of them are black, so that leads to a whole nother set of things.
Aren't we like the poorest city in America or something weird like that? No. I saw some weird statistic the other day.
We're on the top 10 list of poorest zip codes.
Okay, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. That's fucking insane. That's a crazy concept.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, I can see why it could be turned into a racial thing, but it's like it's a society thing too. Like, obviously these people are having a problem. Talk to the people.
Well, the people are just like social narcissists. They're like, oh, I'm dealing with this. Nobody else in my community could be dealing with this. I'm the first person who's ever dealt with this, and it's the worst it's ever been.
And it's hard to, like, break down racial barriers when they're just constantly reinforced all the time.
Yeah, I think the idea of white privilege needs to be dismantled. I think any racially specific organization shouldn't be legal. Like, I don't know. There's so many contradictions in society. I could never make a fucking white people society. They'd think I was fucking skinhead. they'd be fucking burning me at the stake if I did something like that. And the people that do that shit are typically clandestine society weirdos who are fucking skinheads.
So when I learned about white privilege in school, I thought it was kind of weird.
Yeah, required learning for a lot of fucking schools. That's fucking bullshit.
No, it was in my social work classes.
It's required learning, and like fucking gender studies courses are.
No,
yes, they are
not required.
Oh.
Not in general education. No.
Yes.
I did not have to take a gender studies course.
Like, let's say, like Penn State. Does Penn State require gender studies courses for graduation?
If it's something you want to major in, it looks like.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, that totally would make sense if your degree is relevant.
Yeah.
But, maybe it wasn't gender studies. Maybe it was, like, racial history or something like that. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've, like, I mean, I haven't been to college, but it's been so long since I've spoken to anyone who was in college telling me about the courses they were taking.
Yeah, so in my social work 101
it's
class,
hard to say for you because it's all relevant to you.
I specialize in all this stuff, and it's all relevant to me, so, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily taught as, like, wokeness. either. It's to be informed of what's going on in everything, so we know what we're dealing with the people and mental health too.
Yeah, when so
It's really...
I don't think that that's the issue. I think the issue is like the argument, the case that you could make where the history is taught from a biased perspective. You could make the case that these gender studies courses or racial ethnicity DEI like specialized in affirming and promoting courses that are required are taught with a particular perspective as well.
Well, I think it's important as a social worker to understand other people's
as a social worker, yes, but as a like engineer, you shouldn't have to know about gender studies.
You don't have to.
You shouldn't have to know about racial history or things like that.
You don't have to.
So
they're not required things.
Yeah, then okay. I know you say that, but I've heard about this. I've heard that it is. I'm saying that it is. I'm disagreeing with you. I'm going to go out on a limb and disagree with that statement.
And that's fine, but I've been to college.
Yeah.
And I've changed majors multiple times.
Yeah, but you are so... Okay, so we're going to have to do some digging to figure this out. And, But,
like, okay, white privilege...
What is more important on that point, trying to stick to that point real quick, is that it's... Being told other people's perspectives is great. Being expected to agree with their perspectives and that you pass or fail the class based on whether or not you agree with their philosophy and promote it is another story altogether. Yeah. And that's not okay.
And I've seen that, and I agree with you.
And that happens.
Yes.
That's the issue. And
I've seen it.
And sorry, go on with white privilege while I dig this up.
So yeah, I actually saw a guy who didn't get past the second year of the social work. So you had to, first 2 years and then the second 2 years, you had to apply to go on to the next stage of the social work program. And this one guy actually got kicked out because he didn't fit like the, you know, left-leaning ideas, and he questioned the teacher too much. And, like, I didn't see the problem with it. Like, I enjoyed talking to him because he brought up good debate points. Like, it made it enjoyable. So yeah, that definitely bothered me. I've seen that before where people get kicked out for like he would have been a fine social worker. Like, he's allowed to have his own personal opinions. The important thing is you don't express your personal opinions or let them influence your interactions with the client.
Well, yeah, obviously you're supposed to stay objective.
Yeah.
But I guess it depends on what his arguments were. Do you know what his arguments actually were?
They were on... Oh my god. I'm good. I don't remember. Something about, like, gun rights.
So it wasn't ever anything like you should fucking give little kids, like, fucking puberty blockers or hormone therapy and shit. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's all totally perspective based. What kinds of things what were the courses on?
That was like a politics course.
Oh. Well, I mean, sounds like the place to fucking argue shit to me.
Yeah, right.
Like,
exactly.
why would he get kicked out?
Yeah. And then when we learn about white privilege, it's just like things that you don't think of that just happen to work for us but not for other people. Like, Band-Aids are naturally our skin tone, so they're less noticeable on our skin. But when a black person wears a skin tone Band-Aid, it's more noticeable. That's an example of white privilege. It's just something, and like when stockings, like nylon leggings, were first invented, the nude tone was made for white women. So black women didn't have...
When were stockings made?
Oh my god, I don't know, like 19 something?
Yeah, I mean, there probably wasn't very many black people wearing stockings. So they're just like, you know, nude for the people that wore them. Like, I don't understand.
And that's a good point,
it's
too.
fucking nonsense. People just trying to dig up history and rehash fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, that's not privilege.
Trying to compare 100 years ago
Yeah,
to now.
like, now, like... Yeah, like, I understand why you'd be upset about that. And, but that's, first off, that's not privilege. Second off, we can change it. People change that shit all the time.
Yeah, like now there are Band-Aids of all colors.
Yeah, that's the hill you choose to fucking die on, is what color a fucking Band-Aid is. Like, I understand it. I understand, like, why you'd be upset about that. I totally...
And it's not, like, the purpose of it wasn't for, like, anybody to be upset or defensive or anything. It was just for, like, awareness of, like, this is a thing. And, like, it could be alienating. Like, imagine if the shoe was on the... You were wearing the other person's shoes. Like...
Yeah, I
it'd
mean...
be kind of weird.
Where do you draw the line on what kinds of things you want to rehash and who gets rehashed and how far back you want to go and rehash things?
Right.
Because you can rehash shit all fucking day.
Yeah, it's more important to move forward.
Exactly. I understand that you're upset about it. Let's fix it and move on.
Yeah.
Don't tell me I have privilege, because there are so many people who aren't my race, aren't my color, who get all sorts of benefits for the fact that they are that. Well, all I hear about is how I have privilege.
Yeah.
Like, I'm broke as a fucking joke. Thank God for the people around me.
I got you, boo.
Yeah. It's insane. And it's totally disparaging to all of the other people who aren't white, who are also struggling. Like, I don't know. In situations where there actual is real racism, you're like overlooking all of that and just like saying everyone is racist. Everyone of this demographic is racist, and it's unironically or totally ironically racist.
Yeah. Because, like, I don't really think the majority of people are racist.
I don't think the majority of people are either. I think people are just convinced that because that's what makes money. I think that's what the traditional news media has done to everyone. Disney owns Fox and ABC, and for a long time they were the like most watched news networks. And all they did was feed into each other. Like, don't give in to fear, be afraid of this guy. Don't give in to hate this guy. And it just it's like stupid, mindless fluff a lot of the time. Like, ABC's like a bunch of fucking, like, Good Morning America, fucking Robin Roberts. They parade her around like she's she's their prize show horse. Like, she got cancer. She's a hero. She's a minority woman. Like, I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with her and actually get to know the real person, but I don't have much faith that she's a good person. She seems like she's like totally fucking bought into the fucking machine, trying to fearmonger and spread the alarmism, and
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't watched the show in a long time.
I thought that about Tucker Carlson too, but Tucker Carlson, I think he's just insane, and I'd totally take him to a party.
He's a nut.
He's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. His laugh is so unhinged.
That guy is crazy.
Wow.
Watching him talk about how he thinks aliens are like angels and are like a celestial encounter.
You know what he did? He took acid and he watched Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Oh my God.
That's what he did.
It makes perfect sense.
That's
now.
what he did, and that's why he thinks that now.
How old is that shit? When did that come out?
That came out in like 94, maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we were 2?
Yeah.
Wow. That's old.
I want to say 94. It could have been 97.
Well, he ate a
not
bunch of
sure.
mushrooms and left his brother in a parking lot with like a bunch of fucked up hippies. And yeah, I can't remember the story totally. I want to say he said he was like 13, or no, his little brother was 13. Maybe he was like 15 or something. Anyways, he ate some mushrooms, went to this concert with his little brother. His little brother couldn't get in. He went in while he was fucked up. Can't remember what the concert was for, but came out, found his little brother in a van with like a bunch of fucking fucked up dudes. Crazy story.
Oh my God.
Yeah, totally bonkers.
Yeah, he's kind of a nut.
So I wouldn't trust the majority of things that he says.
Yeah.
But I'd totally trust him to interview someone else.
Oh yeah, for sure. I wouldn't trust him.
I think he'd do a good job asking thorough questions and stuff. I haven't looked at anything from him since that Joe Rogan fucking podcast.
Yeah, I think he would be a good questioner. He is not a good questionee.
Yeah.
He just talks.
He's a goofball.
Talks and talks.
Well, I mean, he was like, that's what you're doing when you're, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a podcast. What else are you gonna do?
Right.
A song and a dance.
He kind of like
just the song
spreads misinformation a lot.
He's a little bit like Alex Jones. I think podcasts are a much better place for him than traditional news media.
Yes.
I think the like legacy news networks aren't bad. I think they just need to be held way more accountable for the shit they do. People act like they're the fucking truth. Like, oh, this guy on this fucking news station like is holding these businesses accountable and shit like that. Like, they're the truth because of the questions that they ask. No, you like ask very specific questions to convey such a fucking obvious like
response,
like dialogue.
Yeah.
You're trying to like pigeonhole and railroad exactly where these dialogues go, or at least like the perception of what is actually said by the person that you're interviewing.
Yeah, you're just asking a bunch of leading questions.
Exactly. It's fucking bullshit. I think that's all the like yeah, traditional news media networks are like totally captured by those fucking fringe lunatics I was talking about at the beginning of the podcast.
Well, it's like you watch the same story on each channel and like you get a totally different story each time with like small threads of similarities, and it's just like,
yeah,
okay, so I guess those little bits are the actual truth and the rest of everything else is whatever.
That's exactly how it is about this gender studies course requirement and shit. Like, maybe I heard or read that they were trying to pass bills to require it at the time that I heard it or whatever. But, yeah, like, who do you believe? What do you believe? There's so many rumors that were flying because the issues get so polarized and contentious. And then you go online, and depending on what you read or who you read it from, like even ChatGPT, I got into an argument with it about some facts that I knew were fucking right not too long ago, because it was trying to like get me to like agree with like a particular like viewpoint that it had. It was really fucking weird. And I was like, why were you trying to do that? Like, why were you withholding this information? Like, I presented information to it, and it's like, oh yes, yeah, you're totally right. I'm sorry, I won't do that again. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
That's creepy.
Yeah.
I don't like using those things.
Right.
I really don't. Like, on my work computer, the stupid Microsoft Copilot pops up all the time. And I wish I could turn it off, but I can't because I can't change the account settings. It's, like, blocked by admin or whatever. But, like, that stuff just really creeps me out. Like, that AI is so, like, good at like not at making pictures, but like the typing and like the pulling information very quickly. Like, I'll Google something as I'm talking to a person, and then that stupid little AI thing will on the right hand side like summarize everything that I was looking for. Like, it's almost trying to do my job.
That's crazy.
But like in a really poor, half-assed way.
Wait, so it's not even like a stenographer. It's like trying to look things up for you and stuff? What the fuck?
It's like, here's information about this nursing home. It's located at so-and-so place. It holds this many residents. You can contact them at this phone number for more information. And I'm just like...
What really blows me away is
wow.
the fact that your, like, rig you're running that on isn't exactly a powerhouse. So it's able to, like, process this shit, like, pretty fast, pretty easily.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, like, fucking... Like,
Sometimes
that's scary.
Sometimes I overpower it a little bit, and then I have to close some of my windows if I get a little too busy.
Right on.
Yeah, I get a little excited sometimes when I'm looking up stuff. But yeah, it's crazy. I don't use it for anything other than work because I don't have the option to turn it off.
Yeah. I don't think AI is all bad. I think it has its ups and downs. I don't think it will exist the way anybody thinks it will, though. Maybe some people have it figured out. I bet the people at OpenAI and stuff are totally aware, you know. They got that Q star and they're fucking trying to hide that shit in their back pocket from the world.
I mean, it's helpful for, like, gathering resources quickly. That's definitely true.
It'll make humans so lazy, I think is the
and that's why I
thing.
don't like it. Like, I would rather read through information because I get more of that, and I've learned it myself, than having something go through the internet and pull things for me. Like, I know that that's the more efficient way to do it, but, like, that's not really helping me be a better social worker or be more knowledgeable. Like, because if I just rely on that Copilot, like, I'm going to have to Google that stuff every single time.
The thing that I don't like is that, well, I don't like that either. 'Cause I totally agree with you. Like, you need to be capable as an individual. And just generally, like, fucking, when people stop having ideas and stop innovating on their own, Like, you're basically like stopping your creative thought, you're stopping your imagination, stopping trying to enlighten yourself, move forward as an individual, promote the development and enlightenment of the race, and moving forward as a race. Like what the definition of a race actually is, like the human race, not by colors, because that isn't what race actually is. That's ethnicity and culture and heritage. But as soon as you start using AI to do those things, you are like stunting human growth.
Yeah.
I think what needs to happen is, in the best case scenario, AI kind of becomes like an individualized, privatized kind of thing. Like, in the near future, we're probably it's crazy how fast our lives are probably going to change in the next decade or so. I mean, just since like smartphones came out, our lives are like insanely different. There weren't fucking flat screen monitors like this 10 years ago.
Yeah, we just moved an 80-inch TV screen my brother has.
Yeah, and it's
like,
probably thin as a fucking
it's
CD.
That
yeah,
thin.
it's fucking
like,
nuts.
Jesus. It weighed a ton, but like the fact that thing exists is crazy. I never thought I'd have a computer as fast as I do.
Yeah. So, like, with metallic hydrogen and things like that, quantum computing, computers are going to be so insanely powerful, and they're going to be insanely fucking small. Like, our phones are going to be easily as powerful as our fucking towers. And it's crazy. When we were born in 1992, you know those
were like,
you know those old Motorola like Razors,
yeah,
the like Razor 4s. Yeah, those were considered supercomputers to people back in like the 1970s.
Yeah, they were like cutting edge.
No, well, God, what did the U.S. government, hang on, consider a supercomputer in the 1970s? They had like a certain gigahertz rating that they considered supercomputers. I want to say it was like 36 megahertz or something like that. It was like the fastest computer in the world.
Wow.
It's fucking insane.
And they were huge, right?
Yeah, they were like the size of buildings.
They took up huge like rooms.
Here, check out. 4 years after leaving the CDC, Cray delivered the 80 megahertz Cray 1 in 1976 and became the most successful supercomputer in history. 80 megahertz. Like,
wow.
The thing's fucking enormous. Hang on. Yeah. But anyways, I'll look more into this and probably post it on my Facebook or something.
Fujitsu's numerical wind tunnel supercomputer used 166 vector processors to gain top spot in 1994. 1.7 gigaflops per processor.
Yeah. So, anyways, totally went off on a tangent there. So yeah, I think in the best case scenario, we're gonna end up with fucking like AIs on our phone, little like hologram projectors where we're just like, pew, and a little like
Oh, like in
person.
Star Wars.
Or fucking Halo or whatever.
Yeah.
We're just gonna have a bunch of little
All
Cortanas,
the things.
and
I don't like that either.
well, I mean, you might not like it, but like, you already have that with Google.
Yeah, and I don't use Siri.
Yeah, well, you don't need to use it. Like, these things are fucking listening to us all the time, whether we're choosing to
I
actively use
know.
it or not. So you might as well have a badass fucking AI who you can just be like, yo, what's your nuts? Fucking tell me what the population of fucking Mogadishu is.
Bold
And they tell you
caddy.
exactly what it is in like a split second.
Yeah, that's true.
And and you'll be able to use them for anything, like to like it. And ideally, you won't be a degen. We'll have to figure out ways as a society to educate people to work in synchronicity with them to help develop them as individuals, because I don't necessarily think that we should just be like hedonists because suddenly we have a robot army and AIs to think for us. We should
Yeah.
still try and
Be
like
humans.
the most we can fucking be.
Yeah.
But that can be something absolutely incredible if we do it alongside
With the
AI.
help of AI. Yeah.
Or AI does it with us. Or whatever your perspective of it takes to make it a cool idea for you. You know. I think it's great. I think it's fanciful, and I think it's optimistic.
Okay. I didn't think of it like that. So that is kind of cool.
Hell yeah.
That's like a space adventure game. Except we're actually in the space adventure game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's unavoidable. It was only a matter of time for, you know,
The good thing I go to the gym.
the flies in the jar to, like, reach the ceiling of the jar and being like, yo, let us out of this fucking jar.
Let me out. Let me out.
This is not a dance. Oh, God. Okay, well, that's enough. We did good. We fucking got an hour in here.
We did good.
Yeah. Thank you for
That's
doing
fine.
this with me.
Of course.
Sorry to anyone for the fucking dead air and random tangents. That's how this podcast is going right now, you know.
It's better than no podcast.
I'm gonna put on some fucking... Yeah, it's absolutely better than no podcast. Fuck not having a podcast. That shit's for squares.
And we're triangles. Or trapezoids.
Well, you know, it's... I guess we could be squares. I hear it's hip to be a square.
Is
Anyways. Is it? Yeah. Is it hip to be a square? Is it really? Oh, man. In August, we're going to go see my favorite band, Protest the Hero. And I'm going to leave you guys with some juicy tidbits from those motherfuckers. Juicy. Because, you know, they're fucking sweet.
Slamming.
Yeah, they're slamming. That's a better way of describing them. They're fucking slamming. Anyways. Yeah, you guys have a good one. To anyone who listens to this in the future, or who's been listening to this, I don't know. I like not turning on the chat because turning on the chat, you look at the viewers and then you get self-conscious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's distracting.
Yeah, it's very distracting.
It's hard to not be self-conscious.
Someday maybe I'll pay attention to the chat or have a call-in show or something.
That would be fun.
I like the idea of a call-in show. Maybe actually promoting the show and letting people know when I'm going live for once.
Oh.
That'd be fucking crazy.
Wow.
That'd be real fucking
That'd be super serial.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I guess you could say things are getting kind of serious.
Getting real serious.
Anyways, okay. I'll fucking turn this shit on and get the fuck out of Dodge. And you motherfuckers, you can all burn in hell.
Go fuck yourselves.
Yeah. How's that sound for a deal? How do you like them apples, eh? Alright. Okay. Well, signing off. Love you motherfuckers. Have a good evening or a day or whatever time you fucking watch this shit. Bye-bye.
This drought is relieved with acid rain. This drought is relieved.